Uh, One of my concerns as also a housing advocate, but a whole community advocate for, in particular, South LA, but all of Los Angeles, has been, and those of you who have been around since the 80s and 70s know that those communities get proposals and things begin to go forward and then they stop and they disappear. And it appears to me that this might be the only opportunity we as a commission can have a voice in moving this forward so that the city council can move forward with what all of the community groups that have approved these, that have been vetted by, will have a voice. Otherwise, it's almost as if all of the resources that were dedicated to make these things happen, that we come every other week to discuss and move forward, will disappear, because no matter how good the project is, there's no resources associated with it. It's just a good idea. And I'm very uncomfortable if we, as a commission representing the redevelopment of blighted areas, don't make a statement before this goes to city council, that we just sit by and not be representative of the very groups that are in the room and say, you don't take it until the community and our electeds have had a chance to say whether or not we can continue to move forward. We don't have the authority to make it move forward without a lot of checks and balances. But this call meeting brings to attention, and it brought to a lot of our attention, suddenly $880 million could just be gone. And then what happens to the communities that are represented and that have worked for these projects, that have put together their time and interest as well at the packing cats, and rely on us to make a stand, to say that we have convened to end blight all over LA, and to make no statement about that, to don't step up and speak out that it's not okay. We have something to say about it. The people have something to say. And I think it's imperative that we at least get it to city council, where people who have been elected by these same communities have a chance to speak to whether or not this $880 million will continue to be focused on the blight in LA.
Delana, you mentioned that this is modeled after other cities and counties, and you mentioned something about San Diego. Can you tell me how their situation works down there?
Sure. In 1974, San Diego formed a separate nonprofit organization. It's a public nonprofit organization, 501c3, and they have entered into a cooperation agreement with the City of San Diego as well as the Redevelopment Agency of San Diego to utilize the tax increment dollars collected by San Diego and implement community planning and community development throughout the Center City program area of San Diego. And it has an independent board of directors. It has a staff that is an independent staff, and I believe is also part of the kind of CalPERS system through the state. And it's a very successful development corporation that has effectively been able to carry out the mission of the I'm sorry, my mic was off. The work of the.
Or with this, you know, who at the city would be managing these resources? Who at the city would be responsible for seeing that these work programs actually got done?
I think that in particular is a challenge given the limitations that the city has had on its workforce and concerns from the chief legislative office as well as the chief administrative office. So I think that part of the authority here is to negotiate and execute this agreement, and part of the negotiations is really kind of to understand from the city's perspective what plan in place it could move to ensure that this work program gets carried out effectively and efficiently. It would be our hope that part of the consideration here is that the staff, that we are so capable of doing the work of the redevelopment agency that we would be able to survive any transition.
It mentions that the city has the right to terminate at any time. Why, we're handing over, or potentially conferring money over to them to do work on behalf of our project areas, our communities, why would we not have the right to terminate if they can't execute on behalf of these communities?
So from a fiduciary standpoint, we have to obligate our funds, and it has to be an obligation, a strong and real obligation. And to us, we consider this contractual obligation to the city to provide them the funding to do that, and that meets the test of our statement of indebtedness to the county.
In the event that the city chose to terminate this agreement, those funds, I think, as Delilah mentioned earlier, any funds that they had received that were not used for their own purpose would be considered property taxes and be allocated among the various taxing entities. So these funds can only be used for a redeveloped purpose, and specifically the program that would be attached to this agreement. But the city, I think, as the city works out the details with us, they just wanted to be sure that in the event that the details couldn't be worked out, that this obligation would just go away, and those funds would be lost to the city.
Kind of compression ties back to everything, or is it slightly higher?
So, given the list that you have, actually, we have a list that specifies the amount, the dollar amounts for each of those projects, which we can hand out. The city attorney asked us to put a dollar amount on that list, and we'll hand that out right now to you. In that list, the total is actually more than $900 million. Our list consists of $924 million worth of projects.
So, 30 something.
Actually, it's I think we're at 938. So it's the list is greater, and the value on that list is greater than the 880 million. We're making that list available to everyone. It's just details.
Delilah, I just want to confirm that these numbers have been first included in the implementation plans, the 5-year implementation plans, and or presented to the local CACs and PACs, and or presented to the board at some time or another over the course of our business last year.
Correct. We will go through it and ensure that we can even make references to the actual plan. So I believe that I believe that the list that you got does not have a dollar amount, so
No.
we apologize for that. We will get that to you.
That would be.
In terms of timing, is this the best time to do this, as opposed to, I think as one of the questions asked, the proposal only came out, a week ago. Obviously, lots of activity between now and when the legislature starts looking at this in terms of, why now versus some point down a month or two.
We believe that there is a potential for the state, through the legislative body, to basically mandate that all contracts entered into by various city entities, redevelopment agencies, could potentially cease. So it is a eminent and clear and very real